Well, welcome everyone. It is that time again, Fired Up Friday. I tell you, the weeks go by so quickly. And not to be missed at all, of course, a lot of stuff, going on um, with, okay, trying to get us here. Here we go. Um, a lot of things going on with in the world with our president. I mean, we've got on my list, I try not because there's just so much, and I just
Too
try to
much.
grab a few things for us to kind of zero in on. And I wanted us to kind of zero in on Davos, the peace board, and I feel like Greenland, all of that kind of is entangled in there. And then of course ice in Minnesota, but in general as well, because that is being played out in every aspect of our life now in almost every American city. If it hasn't come to you, I am sure that it will get to you soon. And then, of course, the judicial hearing that they had where Jack Smith, because I do think that that really is important because, it just keeps kind of getting swept, not under the rug, so to speak, but just swept back into the crevices of our memory because there are so many other things that are coming out. But I do think that this is important for us to highlight and to remember and try not to forget. So interesting things there. And then, we'll close out getting into some of the things going on around election, because that is really the thing that is going to, I don't want to say save us, but pull us back from the brink. Like that's, all we got left, folks. Otherwise, we're in autocracy hell for, who knows how long.
Time.
So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Candidly Tiff and I again for Fired Up Friday. If you are not following us, we are hopefully streaming on Substack, YouTube, and Twitter. So, follow us on those platforms. Please subscribe to our Substack and our YouTube channels. And we are just going to get into it. I want to just lead with my guest and just get some of your thoughts on the Davos situation. I have some thoughts on things that kind of stood out for me, and I'd like to hear kind of what you thought.
Well, the man is demented. I don't think there's any doubt. There should be no doubt after watching that foolishness.
If
I,
we don't know it, the rest of the world does.
right. I mean, it was just a cringe fest of just him just ranting an hour long plus conversation that he was having with himself, because I don't even think anyone was paying attention to what he was saying other than thinking, my God, this man is insane. And he just went, it was just like diarrhea. He just kept going and going and going. And I think there was a couple of things that stood out to me in terms of just what he was saying. And he was talking, I turned it on when he was talking about COVID. Like my friend Gwen, she was telling me about it while I was like trying to work that morning. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I was watching the clips and trying to see what was going on. But then I actually turned it on, which I didn't want to do, but I had no choice because I was like, I got to see this for myself. I had FOMO. So I finally get on there and he's talking about COVID and he's like, Operation Warp Speed. It was a great military feat. And I'm like, sir, that was not a military operation. Number one, that was ran by Mike Pence, and it was for COVID vaccines. Like, he really truly believed, like in his mind, that there was like some kind of military action because it's called Operation so and so, and it just that just kind of just hit me like this man is actually insane. Like there's no doubt about it. And we're sitting here trying to, like, people are trying to rationalize. The media is downplaying how he sounds, how he looks. He's like holding on to the podium for dear life. And we
People are trying to rationalize the
And then so
It
we're
is downplaying how he
Sorry.
it's okay.
Sorry, Tip. Go ahead.
he's like holding on to the
Jesus.
podium for dear life. And
I want to hear myself talk, D. Got enough. I gotta talk enough. I want to hear myself. But
Oh, forgive me. I'm trying to watch the chat and I just can't figure it
yeah,
out today. So
gotta,
it's just gonna be us and folks chat it up, but I won't be able to see it. So sorry.
yeah, it's
Sorry, Tip.
yeah, he was insane. And I don't know. I just don't see how this is sustainable, knowing how he changes his mind like every 5 minutes. Like he's like, we're not gonna use military force for Greenland. Then, but he's also like threatening Greenland. And then I'm saying to myself, well, the goal is really not to use military force. The goal is to destabilize their government so that then they need us, which is also goes back to this whole imperialist thing that Trump has in his mind, that he's going to run the Western Hemisphere. And it all comes back to this thing. And then like what, a couple of hours later after the meeting, he's like, we made a deal. No one still has seen this deal that he supposedly made, but they took off the tariff. So to
Because
me,
it's just like the trade deal. Really, we ended up with the deal that was already in place because we
exactly,
already had agreements.
exactly. It was another taco situation where he says he's going to do one thing, he has to go back on it because he just says whatever and doesn't have anything to back it up. Then you have Beston out here just saying crazy stuff. The whole thing was just a disaster, and I just feel like people are not being realistic. At least I think Democrats are realistic on like kind of what this is. People that actually pay attention are realistic, but I just don't think the media wants to go there. They don't want to call it out, but they had no problem calling it out for Biden. The question is why? Why? What is it? Is it fear? I mean, just be honest. Like, is it fear? Because it seems like fear to me that he's going to try to take your funding. He's going to try to destroy you. But is that really the way we want our media to continue to work this? Because you're putting us in danger.
If that is the fear, like, if he takes your funding, um, or if you don't say anything and you keep your funding, like, how comfortable is that to work in a job where you really can't do your job legitimately? And I don't know that I would want to be in that kind of job. I mean, I know that people have to make personal decisions for their, well-being, financial well-being, um, as individuals. I get it. But I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Switzerland, actually, was furious. Um, and the way that our media reported on some of the things that happened, it's like night and day, because, the European publications and things were saying that, it was like, it was not subtle racism, that he was spewing, like and the insanity of it all. I think for me, one of the highlights was Prime Minister Carney's
Oh my
speak.
goodness.
Oh man, that was so moving and it was truthful. I think it was eye-opening for a lot of the European leaders who I think he was able to really succinctly say what I think they were all thinking or turning over in their mind to some degree. And basically, what he said is like, this rule-based order that y'all have been trying to push, it's a farce. you know it's a farce. You don't even adhere to it yourself. And basically, we have been using our superpower to kind of keep others in line under this kind of alliance and allegiance and rule-based order that we are not willing to adhere to, and can change at the drop of a dime, as we have with our president. Now, none of them have gone that extreme as the one we have here, but like, we may have to deal with him but they don't have to deal with him and put up with him in the same way. So they are moving on and figuring out new ways. And basically, the takeaway was that we're not putting a lot of faith or energy into these huge alliances. Like no one's trying to withdraw from NATO like he is. Like basically the Greenland thing was a backdoor way of us getting out of NATO, like getting kicked
Right.
out,
Sure.
essentially, because Marco Rubio embedded some rules down, a couple of years ago when he was in there that, we couldn't do that without congressional approval. But again, I mean, a lot of things that he has done has required congressional approval that he just, stampeded over. But I think that Carney's speech was significant, and I think it marks really a change globally. Like Canada passed or signed agreements with China
Right.
or EV vehicles. So we're going to be the ones suffering. I mean, he thinks, threatening other countries with tariffs and all of these other things. Eventually, they just say, okay, well, we just won't trade with you at all. And it's not like we're the only game in the world or in town.
Well,
And so,
I think that he thinks that we are. And the thing is, we have been trying to combat like what China, like the progress that China has been making in Africa and the Caribbean and throughout Europe. I mean, they are making these deals because people, but the thing is, a lot of people didn't, they kind of curtailed that because they knew that the United States was not going to be happy with it. But I feel like it's kind of like a bad relationship where you're just pushing the person away and now they're going to be in the arms of the enemy, which because they're no longer going to see China as the enemy. They're going to start seeing China as a resource, and they're going to look to us as being the enemy, or the person, not even an enemy, but just someone that they cannot trust. And once there's no more trust, which I wouldn't trust Trump after what he was saying at in Davos, I wouldn't trust that. I mean, he basically was telling them that he doesn't give a shit about them. So if you're telling me you don't care about me, then we're gonna break up, and I'm gonna try to find a way to have to find, maybe I have to find a new relationship. But you are
right.
not going to be my resource for the things that I need, because you are inconsistent. You're telling us you don't care about us, and why would I keep subjecting myself to a relationship where you are constantly threatening me? Because that's what it comes down to. Trump is
It's
just
an abusive relationship.
exactly,
It's not healthy.
unhealthy, abusive relationship. And Europe is going to have to figure out, and Canada too, and Mexico, how they are going to deal with this man for the next couple of years. And even if it's not him, if he is no longer with us, you're still going to have to deal with JD Vance, and you're still going to have to deal with possibly Marco Rubio as a VP, because these people are going to still try to have, it's still the same regime. It's just different. There might be different leaders, but they all have the same philosophy on what they think of this so-called new world order, so to speak. But the order is very much isolation. They want to be isolationists.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that a lot of people don't realize is that driving that Greenland grab is not just raw power for him controlling something, but the minerals and other things there, not just the military strategic port for us, but also the tech bros, which we remember during his inauguration, they were all seated behind him, and they're all embedded into our government now with all of their contracts and deals. And the top two, I think, is Teal and Musk. I mean, people. It's not talked about enough, but it really is a real thing. Like these technocrats have this ideology of actually because they're libertarians for the most part who don't believe in regulation, but even beyond just like what you think about in terms of climate and environmental regulations and industrial regulation, they don't even want like a democracy. They want these kind of free associated states. They have a name for them. They call them network states. And Greenland has kind of always been in their vision as an excellent place to do that. And of course, these being all tech bros and stuff, that of course they could benefit from the minerals and those things for data centers and all of that. But people really need to understand that it goes a little deeper than that. And so he is being pushed and driven by these people who are actually helping him to line his pockets. So he's listening to them. And the other thing that people need to be aware of too is I think the only reason that he didn't is because European leaders actually moved troops. When he started talking that crazy talk, there were countries who moved troops into there, Germany, and I can't remember the others off the top of my head, but they were like, yeah, come on and get some of this. But he had been saying, and the news had been reporting that the 11th Airborne Division was kind of like on standby to go into Minnesota. But I follow and read a lot of military strategists.
They were like Minnesota.
Yes, exactly. That team trains for the terrain that Greenland is made up for. So I think that he was going to try to pull the same kind of thing with Greenland, yeah, that he did with Venezuela, just kind of swoop in and yeah. But the EU moved troops in there. The other scary part about this too is that, you know, I don't know whether it's true or not. I really don't care. People talk about him having Mein Kampf, you know, by his bedside or whatever. But what I think about, because, you know, I'm a history nerd and I watch this stuff, and I spent a decade in Germany and I studied German history and have friends there. But what Hitler did to start World War II is very much in keeping with like what Trump did to Venezuela. He basically brought the leader of Austria over to Germany and twisted his arm and said, you know, like, you're going to sign this agreement to allow us to annex you. And even though he was saying, like, I don't have that power, we have a structure in place there, you know, like parliament and other folks that would have to sign that type of agreement. Hitler said, you're not leaving here till you sign it. He basically was doing gangster diplomacy with him, kind of like Trump does. And he said he wouldn't let him leave until he signed it. And then he went back and they just walked in there a few weeks later. And it's kind of like what I think it's Lutnick and those guys have been telling us with their Christian nationalist views, you know, it'll be bloodless if you allow it. And that's kind of what Trump, you know, is telling these like countries. And so I think countries like Germany, they know their history.
Right.
They know how their dictator operated and how he moved, because he went to Austria and shortly after that, Czechoslovakia. But, you know, people, like I said, history matters because some of this stuff is not new. Most of it isn't, in fact. You know?
Well, Trump definitely has a playbook that he has used, and it's you just start to kind of see it playing out like here and there. The whole thing with the Somalians at that, when he was just going off about them, he's just so disgusting. And and people are still saying this man is not racist. And I'm like, how could you possibly say this? Like, what the hell does he have? Does he have to say the N-word?
Only another racist is probably thinking that.
Racist? Like, what is not clicking here? So I mean, the whole thing was just a disaster. I was embarrassed. I mean, Trump embarrassed me every day, but I think just seeing him on the world stage being so erratic and just talking out his ass, all of that it just felt like, damn, we are really in a bad place. And then you see that he has like this thing on his hand, and you're like, okay, well, what is really happening with this
That
man?
was ugly, yes.
Yeah,
We're
it's
in a bad place and a scary, dangerous place, and we're alone. No one's coming to save us.
no one is yeah, I think that was definitely my tweet. Like, no one is coming to save us. Like, I'm sorry, guys. We are so screwed. Like, we're making no one trusts us. No country trusts us in this world. And then he has like what is it called that he created, like a peace board
Uh,
or something?
yes, and that is like just one big grift, and of course I know it made me angry because I mean basically they are carving up Gaza and selling it off for parts. Like he makes this peace board, makes himself the the chairman for life, and and then the people that he invited have to cede $1 million to get their seat at the table.
Like it was like really small countries. It was like it was so weird. I'm just like, can we just have like a normal day? Is that even possible anymore? Yeah, I thought the whole thing with the whole Jared Kushner giving a presentation showing what they want to do in Gaza. It's like we told you guys that this was going to happen, and for some reason you kept acting like that we were not being truthful or something, when it was the man said it, that they have great waterfront and they great land to be able to build condos. Like, this whole futuristic look of Gaza is just a total grift so these people could make money on the backs of people who have suffered. And I just question, like, what you protested all these months, you did all this stuff, you cost us in some ways the election, and you only helped to make Trump richer and his family, because Jared Kushner is part of his family. He doesn't even work for the government, but yet he's giving presentations.
And the thing of it is because they had all of these demands. Now, I get that you didn't like that our government was funding Israel, but I mean, again, we have agreements and things in place, and so sometimes these kinds of things are done. But I do feel like more. Um, Rules and regulations around it could have been enacted. And I do believe had the VP won, that she would have done that. Okay. And so for people to demand these litmus tests, this all or nothing, is just bad politics, and it's bad civic understanding and engagement. And I really, really hope that we don't repeat the same dang thing again in this midterm, because I now already hear people talking, their litmus test and everything. So,
I mean,
kind of before we get into that, I want to, because that's kind of the bridge.
right.
Of course, a lot of it is around ICE. What they're doing is disgusting, and how they are using people's dissent and protest is also disgusting. They've issued subpoenas for, the leaders of the city and the governor and other things. They are trying to get Don Lemon caught up in some type of lawsuit when he went into a church reporting on, protesters who entered. Now that's a whole nother thing, whether you think that was right or not, but those folks on the left, the Gaza folks, didn't have any problem going into Mother Emanuel. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
we remember that really well, right?
okay.
Like,
So you
so
can feel how you want to feel about it, but I do think it's disgusting that you have someone preaching the gospel of Christ who is working for ICE. And people laughed when I told them, like, it's not unusual. One, because Turning Point USA Faith was totally created to basically politicize churches. In my discussions group that I have, one of the documentaries that we watch was Bad Faith. And there is a scene in there where one of the pastors that's doing this, preaching this kind of gospel, is someone who actually went to the Capitol on January 6th, and he has a church. The name of his church is Patriot Church, and
Well,
that's here in Tennessee. Okay. I have another church next door to me here in Nashville, in a neighboring county, where literally the man calls Democrats demons. He say, if you vote Democratic, you're a demon. This is white Christian nationalism. Like, it's all
okay.
around me. I see it. And so it's not, like I said, unusual or unexpected for me to know that a pastor is working with ICE.
Oh no, it was not surprising at all because as soon as like when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is not surprising. But then somebody said something I think on Monday, and I was like, or it was Tuesday, and I was like, this is not surprising. You know how many Ku Klux Klan members were and Grand Wizards were pastors? Like, this is not a shock. This is not surprising. These people use religion as a way to draw people in, mess with their heads. And we have seen this even in my own grandmother's church, which is a Latino Pentecostal church. A lot of those people are MAGA. They have literally picked up people from their church, and ICE has come, and these people are not moving. They're not moving how they feel, because a lot of these people think that they're special. They think that they are the special one, until they start to see that they're family members and people they care about. And my grandma's always cursing them out because she's like, you don't see what's happening. She's always fighting with them. But the point is that religion is used as a way to mind F people.
Yes, and it always has been, I mean, from, slavery time, the Confederates, I mean, it's woven into their constitution, because this ideology that this white supremacy is like, they are mandated by God basically to rule and, have dominion, over the earth and everything else that they want. So, yeah, like I said, it's not surprising, but what he is trying to do to Don Lemon, and he would just be, I feel like, the beginning, and he's a test case, because he's already gotten a lot of the large legacy media
Right.
platforms, under his control, or, abiding by kind of what he wants to report. CBS is basically Fox Light now. But he knows that these other independent sources of information exist. And so he is trying to crack down on those too. And I think Don Lemon, is a leader in that new media ecosphere. So they would love to make an example of him and kind of silence and frighten other people and keep
Okay.
them from speaking out.
Yeah, I was glad that the judge, when they tried to get it like some kind of indictment or something on the judge was like, no, this is stupid. This doesn't even make any sense. Like, they threw it out. He's like, don't even bother.
I know.
But I do think that you're right in the fact that they're trying to use Don Lemon for multiple reasons.
He's a black man, for one.
Black
Yeah.
gay man. He is actually someone who's actually in the streets. Unlike some people, the media is there, the local media is there, but I don't feel like we've seen enough people from MSNBC, CNN reporting on a lot of this stuff. And he is there. He's on the front lines. And I mean, it sucks because the lady, whether you agree with the going into a church or not, trying to use that act to and actually use, I forget what it's called, that they use for
The FACE Act.
the FACE Act, and I guess they arrested the black woman, so they're going to use her as like some kind of, she went off on them, which was great. It doesn't, a lot of it is, like you said, intimidation and trying to sway people's minds to think that, trying to persuade people who is the enemy and who's not the enemy. And it's just crazy to watch it, because the whole idea that we're watching something happening in real time and you're telling us that it's really not happening is very indicative of the past. And we are at a point where we need to start having these conversations, like, what does the media look like going forward? Because we can't like I said in the beginning, we can't really trust the media because they're not even telling the truth about his condition, where he's at. They're not even being investigating it. You know what I mean? Like they've lost
Not even curious.
not even curious, right, about why he's doing the things he's doing. But yet, when Biden was there, they had something to say about everything. They're not asking questions of where's JD Vance, what's JD Vance doing. He says crazy things in press conferences, and it's like nothing. I mean, if VP said half the crap that this man said, they would be up her, you know what, and talking crazy.
Yeah, because talking about her, I mean, they attribute things to her that she never even said.
Exactly.
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, yeah, it's just frustrating to kind of and to watch it all play out and just see, just kind of the way that people are moving in this climate and how things are unfolding. And I know there's been like a lot of stuff today, like just talking about like the DHS vote and, because this kind of ties back to like the Minnesota thing. And Minnesota is having a general strike today. So good for them. It's like -9 degrees out there. People are out there protesting. So kudos to them. But if you listen to people from Minnesota, and like in the St. Paul area, Minneapolis area, they are saying that this is frightening. And like you said, this is not something that's like it's full scale there. But even here, like I'm on different social media platforms and people are alerting folks like they have like the symbol or the emoji for ICE, and they're like they're out in Columbia, they're out in Jessup, which is weird to me, but even more so because where they're at, I just thought about this as I was downstairs. So Howard County doesn't really have like a lot of Latinos. What they do have is a lot of Asians. So I'm like, are they trying to mess with the Asians now? Like, I mean, there are Latinos, but it's not like Maryland is a very weird state. It's mainly a black and white state, right? I mean, there's obviously Latinos here, but it's not a huge number.
Mhm.
But there's a sizable Asian community in Howard County. Is that who you're looking for? Like, who are you trying to find, and what are you planning to do going forward? Because they're not going. I mean, they are in Baltimore, like city, but I feel like they're trying to test case this in the suburbs to see how people are going to react.
They absolutely are, and, they just, it was written about, but not highly publicized. They have a memo, that they use in training these guys, which, we can talk about the training as well, that basically, allows them to and instructs them on how to go into neighborhoods and, like, go into people's homes, like, door to door, show me your papers kind of activity. And it is frightening and it's intentional in a way. And it's alarming because my daughter called me up one day this week and she's kind of like your daughter. She knows I'm into the news and politics. And so when something comes up that, um, concerns her, she'll call and ask me about it. My son does the same thing. And she called me and she was like, is ICE going into, are they coming and knocking on people's doors and things? And she's concerned because, first of all, our last name is, sounds, Hispanic.
Mhm.
And secondly, because she was born in Germany, in a military hospital,
Right,
because,
right.
um, her parents are military people, were at the time of her birth. And these people have no care or concern. They have detained actual literal veterans. And so, we talked about, her papers and everything and, keeping it. And I'm going to plan to have further conversations with her. But talking about that, and you talking about the suburbs, my friend, Soul Sister, she texted me in the wee hours this morning. She had been on a few socials and learned that they were actually in her neighborhood in Michigan. And now that's not being carried on the news. And it is one of those kind of like quiet suburbs,
Yeah.
one that is kind of largely white and actually used to be kind of a sundown town kind of place. Okay. And so this is where they are. So like I said, I feel like they're in more places than is actually getting, a lot written about. And that's intentional. And it was interesting because JD, when he went to Minnesota yesterday, it was kind of like he was doing that thing again. Like, now this can be, bloodless if you allow it, like blaming Minnesota. Like, we've been to all these other places. And I mean, we had some issues, but nothing like this. And the reason is because you guys keep resisting. Like, if you will just work with us, why won't you work with us? And the other places were cooperative, and they
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 were not.
actually weren't.
Yeah,
Uh,
California had like a huge protest. I mean, New York, they were cursing them out. Like, this has been happening in so many places. The issue is that the problem is in Minnesota is not there's not hundreds of ICE agents. There's thousands. They, as the Minneapolis Mayor Fry says, we have 600 cops on the street. They have 3,000 ICE agents and CBP and all these people running around. We are outnumbered to the point where I think it was in St. Paul or one of the cities where or maybe it was in Minneapolis, where they arrested they tried to arrested one of the cops. God damn it.
exactly. And was she not? I was listening to it on the radio, so I didn't see the visuals. Was she a Black woman?
I don't even know,
Or
to be honest.
I think she was a woman of color, but I'm going to go back
But
to
I don't know.
verify.
I don't know if she was Black, Hispanic, Somali. I don't know what her ethnicity was or race, but I assume she was a woman of color.
Yes, exactly. Because, otherwise, but that's what I keep telling everyone, like, no one is safe in fascism. No one, because they profile. And of course, the reason profiling is illegal is because you don't know. People just don't look like, they're this, or they may look like this, but they're not. And like I said, they have locked up veterans. They have deported some veterans, because it was not uncommon for us to have people from like Haiti and the islands. And one of my besties from St. Croix, who served in the military and stuff. And so these people are trying to find every excuse in the book. One, to get as many people of color out of the country. And the ones that they keep in, let's not forget that every time he has won office, the stock for the private prisons has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that is? And I have one of them here in my backyard. So I kind of know a little bit something about that core civic, because it's really just, who was that lady that wrote the book? It's almost like a new form of slavery, like the prisons being the new plantations, and this way of creating this type of indentured servitude, or free labor kind of thing. And these detention centers, they don't care about caring for the people. It's all about the body count.
And money. It all comes
Yeah,
down.
because that's it. The number of bodies they can get in and out of there, it makes them increases their profit. And it's not just like the detention centers themselves, but it's all of these ancillary businesses that work with the prisons, like the what do you call it? The commissary services, the phone services. Like, they have regressed on that, because those phone services are very predatory. I mean, they cost a fortune, and they had made some laws around it. But of course, I can't remember exactly what, but this administration kind of undid that, and that was so that the people that own those services and work with the prisons can increase their profit. And I don't know if you recall that years ago, ProPublica did an outstanding article and story, and I talked about it in our Monday Good Trouble chat for a number of weeks. there was a local judge here who was sentencing basically black and brown kids to these detention centers, not like that, but juvenile detention centers, and she for just a little of nothing. And the reason that ProPublica jumped on this story was because they literally went into schools and took these kids out. And one of them, and they were all young, one of them, I'll never forget, was like 8 years old, a little girl. They went in, they sent the police in. And what was these kids' crime? It was not a crime at all. They had watched a fight, not stoked the fight on, not been involved in it. They had watched a fight at the bus stop where they had to be. And anyway, as the resulting investigation into all of this, when they started digging, this lady had been doing this for years and sending kids to these juvenile detention centers for the money, so her county could get money. And the core civic, these private prisons, it's essentially the same thing.
It's just sad. I mean, this week, I know everybody was up in arms about the 5-year-old boy in Minnesota that they baited the family. They were trying to bait the family with. No one knows where this little boy is at, which is extremely sad. I mean, it's just it's the inhumanity of it all, the non-caring. I mean, in their minds, they're like, okay, we're going to get these illegals out of here. We're going to get these people out of here. They got to get out this country. But where's your humanity? This is a 5-year-old kid. And then I think it's Bovino was like, oh, well, the kid is okay. There's the CBP knows how to take care of kids. No, they don't. We've seen that they don't know how to take care of kids. Like, come on, you're not fooling anybody. It's just horrific. And this is not the first kid that they've done this to, but I think the fact that we have pictures and people, were able to see it happen, it was heartbreaking and disgusting. Yeah. It's just disgusting. Like, how are you, JD Vance, sitting there when you have 3 kids, you have a 4th on the way. Your wife is somebody who is from an immigrant family, and you're sitting there like acting like everything is fine. Like, who cares if a 5-year-old is in detention? Like, I don't care. Oh, he wasn't this. That wasn't the point. The father was illegal. And since the father is illegal, then this justifies what we're doing. I'm sorry, but that doesn't work if you are supposedly a Christian. He needs to get excommunicated out of the church at this point. Like, it's disgusting. I'm sick of him. First of all, they didn't want to give Biden his communion. So why the hell does JD Vance able to get his when you're not following Christ? I'm sorry. This goes back to the pastor thing. The whole idea of this just disgusts me because it's not Christ-like.
At all. And I'm someone who grew up in the church, grew up in a religious, community. My father is a pastor, and I'm not God. I can't judge. But like I said, I've read the Bible. I've been immersed in this Christian ideology for most of my life, and none of what they're doing is anything close to Christ-like. But like I said, I'm not the judge, but it's not even about that. It really is white Christian nationalism, which is, it's like, the KKK. That's all they were. Yeah, okay. And they use Christ and helping the community and keeping the community safe, but it is rooted in hate of others who do not look like them, who they don't believe, should inherit or be able to have liberties and the pursuit of happiness, let alone, own some land or hold some positions.
It's just racism, and it's just disgusting. The whole thing is just disgusting. And I'm just frustrated with Democrats in general, because I feel like they, instead of attacking Republicans, they've decided that they are, now we talk about midterms and how we move forward. And then I'm also, and I know we want to talk about like Jack Smith yesterday and 1-6, and all of this goes back. Like this didn't, none of this started. This started in 2015. It's been 10 years of this. So we've gone through like different phases of this. So we got Trump coming down the step, the escalator, being racist, talking about the Hispanics and the Mexicans are, rapists and the whole 9 yards. And then he gets elected and they start with the family separation and this whole border thing. And that then kind of goes away as Biden comes back into office. But before Biden even gets into office, we have 1/6 where he's basically directing these people. And I thought Jack Smith, when they were asking him questions, I thought Democrats did a pretty good job asking questions yesterday, the ones that I did.
Paul did an excellent job because, those Republicans, the only reason they agreed to it was so that they could get some clips to run on their Fox News and to entertain Trump. Because, I heard that he was, of course, watching and live posting on his Truth Social platform. And so they were just performing for him. They never asked a question. They really just were spewing accusations at him.
That's what they do.
But Jayapal was very succinct, and I think Motzkovitz, the guy from Florida, was as well, because they asked him questions which he had already testified to in the hearing that wasn't did he incite this, and was he?
Well, that was the couple. I watched clips of it, and the questions, the ones that I did see, they were asking him that very specific question, like, did Trump orchestrate this? Was he the person? Would there have been this situation if it wasn't for Trump? And I think Jack Smith was like, yeah, I mean, this is like obvious, isn't it?
And they're like, why'd you go after Trump? Why'd you go after Trump? Because,
we got
when you got a gang lead, a gang, I mean, don't you want the leader?
Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, ignore him? Like, this is so stupid. And the fact that the Supreme Court gave him immunity. I mean, there's like so much to this. But then, like I said, that 1/6 was just one of the most horrific days at the Capitol. And you saw like the officers were there yesterday, and then you had Fanon fighting with the Nazi guy. Like, who invited the Nazi guy? I want to know.
But they said that he has been there at all of those hearings, and he's just a provocateur. I was so happy. I reposted what Michael Fanon told him, because he was like, I'm not having it, but Harry kept him calm and safe. But yeah, he was getting ready to punch that dude, and he deserved it.
Harry had big old team had to come in there and scoop him out and take him out. And I'm like, well, good thing Harry is humongous, because Michael Fanon is not big at all. And he just kind of like grabbed him and was like, let's go, because I don't want you to be. These people would love for you to swing and put you in jail. So let's just go outside and kind of get this together. So
yeah, but it was a very disgusting way of like trolling people who, like, we watch this stuff, and like, he was probably there, one of the provocateurs, and doing some disgusting things then, but I mean, just the nature of people that would do something like this. Like, these men literally put their lives on the line, and they suffered, physically and mentally and emotionally from it. Yet they still continue to stand up for democracy. But these are the kind of people that they go after and ridicule, and they don't have that same kind of smoke for the folks who are literally,
they're harming us. Like, these people
yes,
are harming us, and they do not have the smoke for them. The whole Republican thing yesterday, where we're trying to fund DHS, like, this has been like a nightmare all day today, because seven Democrats obviously voted with the Republicans to pass that spending bill for DHS. There's things that people are not speaking about that is frustrating me. Number one, ICE is funded. ICE was funded in the one big beautiful bill. That bill $75 million. Their annual funding is $28 million. This funding bill gives them an additional 10 million. But baby, they are funded and they are going to do what they want to do regardless. Yes, you can say, well, they're horrific. We've already talked about that. But the people who voted for this are all in red or like very reddish districts. The 7 people that, again, they didn't have to vote for it. They chose to vote for it. They're like, Hakeem should not be speaker. Why would he be speaker? He can't even have his party unity. Why didn't they whip the votes? Y'all don't even know what whipping the votes really means. I think they think that
they probably heard people like you say.
they probably think they're supposed to whip them or something, like literally take out the whip or something, because that's not how this works. I have to break that down. Like, okay, the whole point of whipping is, one, to make sure that everybody understands what's going on, and then also to make sure that there's proper attendance. Every Democrat was there yesterday. Also, 215 out of the 217 or 18 they have now were in attendance. So they were there. They had enough votes to be able to pass this. Yes, these 7 people decided that they were going to vote with it. And Hakeem obviously was aware, probably, that these people, they weren't secretive about it. Henry Cuellar said he was going to vote for it. He said that the day before. Tom Suozzi voting for it, not a surprise. Tom Suozzi and the lady Gillen, they're both on Nassau County, which is Long Island. It's now Magaville, okay? Texas, those 2 districts were part of the gerrymandering. They are now more red than they were before. North Carolina, Don Bacon, they're like, not Don Bacon, Don Davis, they're like, we need to primary him. I'm like, okay, what are you going to primary him with? His district has literally been like carved up, especially to discount the Black vote. And you're saying you want to get rid of this man, knowing that this district is a red district now. So who are you bringing in? You're not going to bring someone further to the left to get him out of there. So, I mean,
you're going to make us lose a seat altogether.
Exactly. And that's the part that's pissing me off about this, is like, y'all are not making any sense. Yeah, I was not happy that 7 people decided to vote with the Republicans, but I'm also smart enough to understand that if you try to primary these 7 people, if there is even a bit, like some states like Texas, you can't primary them. It's already cut off. Like they cut that off back in December, because Jasmine, was announced on the last day. So you're not primarying those people. You're not going to go primary in New York. I promise you that. You're going to lose. But it's the simple fact that it's just always like so dramatic, like every time this happens. And what are y'all fighting for? Because ICE is already funded. I'm sorry. And if DHS is not, so if the Democrats in the Senate decide that they are going to filibuster and not do this, guess what? ICE will still be on the street because they have the money to do it. The TSA will be impacted. FEMA, we have a freaking snowstorm next week. You want to shut down FEMA? I don't really think that's a smart idea. So we need to start thinking about these things with nuance.
Exactly. But I also say, and I understand that this is going to be a big question on the campaign trail. But I also say that Democrats cannot run from discussing it like, or just shut it down, like defund the police, because I do think that was stupid. Right. I understood I understood the feeling around it, but we have to be nuanced around these things. Now, defunding ICE, I think is a conversation we should have, because it's a relatively new organization, and so is DHS, for that matter. It doesn't have to be under that particular cabinet. Okay, no, it can be changed so that there can be some oversight. I think that it needs to be readdressed. What I hate is there are a lot of people who have much larger platforms than you and I, who are influencing people and talking about making this like a litmus test. Like they literally want to hear people say, defund ICE, their candidate, and some other stuff. And I'm like, you know what? That is ridiculous. To me, it's no different than kind of the Gaza demands. Like, let's be nuanced about this, and let's be real. And I also hate when those same people do that kind of thing and they attribute things to Democrats that are not true. In fact, saying Cory Booker was like, yeah, we're just going to make sure their training is improved. But if you go, I encourage everyone who is listening, I'm going to be talking about it and posting it more because it really, this person, I'm not going to call them out by name, but they are all over these platforms and they have said it multiple times, but it really pisses me off that they try to act as if, like he really didn't have a plan. And that's my thing, because Democrats do need to not avoid it, to have the conversation and to have a plan. And his plan actually makes sense. It's really kind of the best we can do, especially at this point with us not being in power, and also about going forward, how we kind of restructure these things. Because again, like I said, it's not like Black people don't want police, but it's like, what does that policing look like so that it helps us and not harms us? And so we're a country of immigrants, and we have laws around that immigration. So when you have laws, you need some type of enforcement. And so we can reimagine what it looks like and how it's carried out and who they're responsible to. But again, like you said, the big, beautiful bill, it's already passed. They got the money.
With zero Democrats helping to pass that bill. Let's be clear.
Exactly.
87% of Democrats were not voting for this bill, but somehow all Democrats are to blame for this, and the Democratic Party sucks, and Hakeem sucks, and he shouldn't be the speaker, and they should have whipped up. I mean, it's like nonstop.
I'm glad I haven't been watching them yet.
We hate the Democrats. Democrats asking, like, we need to get a majority, okay? These 7 people need to be, whether you like them or not, they are part of the caucus. They need to be reelected, because if you elect them plus 20 more Democrats, guess what? Now they become
we have a majority.
We get back the gavels. Getting back the gavels means that we now can start investigations. We control what comes on the floor, what doesn't. We could stop them from doing another reconciliation bill, which they could possibly do because they have the numbers. I always speak about math. They do have the 51 votes in the Senate, and they have a very slim majority in the House right now, but they could potentially pass another reconciliation bill next year if we do not get back the House. The Senate is a stretch, but I am just overwhelmed with the fact that people do not understand how any of this works. And they just spew at the goddamn mouth about shit that they don't even know. And then they get mad when you come back and tell them, no, this is not the way this works. Or this is a district that's not going to be winnable by anyone, like a Manchin, anyone but that person, or someone who is even further to the right, which we don't want. And then, like, honestly, these 7 people, probably about, let's say, like 7%, maybe 5% of the time, they vote with Republicans. The other 95, they're voting with Democrats. The Republicans had the votes for this bill. Let's be clear about that. There was 214. It would have been 214 and 214 based on what we knew. They would have won the vote with that. But Andy Harris was sitting in the caucus, in the room, and he decided he knew they knew the vote count. And he just said, I'm not going to vote for it. But if he needed to vote, he would have voted for it. So it's like all these big creators that just decide they want to just throw stuff out there, and then people just feed into it. It's just horrible to watch it happen. And it feels like almost like defenseless. And then you also have people like just going after Jasmine non-stop. All these
Lord.
Really, that one pisses me off.
Exactly. And I'll let you talk about what is happening, because this morning I re-listened again to her interview with Jamie Harrison on his podcast. But the misogyny, of it all. And Jamie wrote a great
Oh, I
Substack. I loved it. I mean, again, kind of like Carney did with the kind of American,
Mhm.
relationship to the rest of the world. He just nailed it. I think that Jamie Harrison nailed the issue of Black women seeking, political office, and so tell folks kind of what's been going on with,
I mean,
Jasmine.
with Jasmine, it just listen, there are people first they came at her about the whole like Israel Gaza thing. You're voting. You first they said that she took APAC money. She never took
A
APAC
lie,
money.
total lie.
What a lie. That's what they do. Then they started coming at her saying that, this is making it all about herself. This is about ego. She can't win. Listen, I don't know if Jasmine can win or not. That is for the voters to decide. There is a debate this weekend between her and Tallarico, and people can decide. She is apparently winning in the polls. Polls mean nothing. Tallarico has is spending millions of dollars on ads, and this is a race between two Democrats, and one will win. They are two different people, and they have their ideologies are not that much different, but they appeal to different people. My issue with the whole thing is that I feel like people are just going at Jasmine because one, the misogyny of it all.
Mhm.
There's racism that comes into play. They love Jazz. They love bold, audacious Jasmine when she
Yeah,
was
we need fighters like Jasmine.
need those fighters, and then next thing you know, she's like, I'm running for Senate, and they're like, no, you gotta you go to the back of the bus over there.
No, you go fight where we tell you to. You stand where you stay
Yeah,
in the place that
yeah, you
we
have to stay
feel
in your
comfortable
space.
with you being in.
Right. When she was in the house, they didn't care about any of this stuff, but now they seem to care. So Kenny went off today. He had a video that went off. And it just reminds me so much, but it's not the same, but it reminds me so much of our race here in Maryland, where you have a white man and you have a black, that was an older white man, and he also had money, and then you had Angela also Brooks. And then you have this dynamic, but then you also have people who are feeding into the foolishness. And my thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me who wins the primary. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. We'll see who it is next, in March. But it's the point of the way that they are treating her and coming at her is just horrific to me. And even if I wouldn't like, the thing about it is with Tallarico, I don't have any beef with him. I don't know anything about him except for, the clips that I've seen and things that people are talking about. But the fact that people just keep on taking personal shots at Jasmine just tells me exactly where we are. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize, and that was to the point of Jamie's article, is that while Black women are the backbone of the party, at some point that backbone is going to break. And once that backbone breaks, the party will then break, because
Mhm.
there's only but so much misogyny and so much racism that people are going to stand for. And we are seeing the infiltration of, people from the left, especially white males, talking negatively about Jasmine, and it's pissing people off. So somebody needs to have a conversation with those people, because they are starting to piss people off, especially Democrats and Black women who are Democrats and Black men who are Democrats. And they are causing a friction within the party where you're going to start having division, not based on ideology, but based on race, because of the way they treat people.
Exactly, and that this is what it boils down to. I mean, their racism is showing, and I'm afraid that, like I said, like misogyny and white supremacy, is not isolated to one party. It crosses both parties. Okay, and the fact that we are demanding for fighters. Clearly, she is one. I mean, just really let them run their race and let the constituents of Texas decide.
Right.
But to get in here disparaging one over the other over nonsense and over lies. I mean, the racism to me is very blatant, and the misogyny. And because most of this is coming from white males. Okay.
Even this week they were, so last week I think they took a vote on it's like a package deal, and it had funding for Israel, and they're like, I can't believe Jasmine voted for this 3.3 billion. I'm like, you know that package was something that was approved by an agreement, like you said earlier, that Barack Obama signed with Israel to give them $3.3 billion per year. This has been going on since 2016, guys. It ends in 2028. You want her to not vote for the bill because of that? Make it make sense. There's a million other things in this bill, and you are focusing on this and then using that as a way to jab at her.
And counting on the ignorance of a lot of Americans who don't understand, who are not that savvy in the understanding of, policies and bills and, civic engagement for that matter, because a lot of them really kind of take their lead. And that's what disturbs me, and I get angry about. And I follow some of these white guys because I like to kind of step in and enter into their chat when they're doing some of this stuff and call attention to them, because some of them are actually consultants. And I cannot believe that the Democratic Party is paying them to, in my view, create division within the Democratic Party, And, they never, this one guy never seems to miss an opportunity to bash Kamala Harris. It's like, that race is overdue. Like, stop it already.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's the thing, that we watched how they did Kamala Harris, and they still come in my comments. It's Kamala's fault. She ran a terrible campaign. Okay, you may feel that she ran a terrible campaign. I don't give a shit at this point if that's how you feel. There is a demon that is in the White House that you helped put there if you didn't take your behind and go vote with your apathetic stupidity. So you helped to cause what we are having now. You can blame the candidate, but you knew what was at risk and you chose to not vote, or you chose to vote third party, or you voted for that demon. So you had choices in the matter, and you chose the one that was the most convenient for you, which was to sit at home. Meanwhile, other people, Black women, Black men, a good portion of Latinos, and these like 40 something percent of white people saw the risk and voted for this woman so that they could not have to deal with this man again. So don't sit here and tell me that you are exempt from all of this and take no responsibility for it. I'm not trying to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear that nonsense, because at the end of the day, this is a representative democracy. And if you don't go vote, the representatives that you get is the representatives you get because you didn't take the time or care enough, or you tried to have an excuse to not vote. And I don't want to hear, I'm sick of it. So as we go into this, like this midterm, it's like, what do you guys want? What do you want? Because all you do is complain.
Exactly. And the thing of it is like this, wanting this laundry list, and this candidate has to say defund ICE. They have to say this, and they have to agree to this, and they have to agree to that. And it's like, you know what? Black people would never vote or get anywhere if they had this list of all the things that they wanted, and that list had to be met, because there is such a thing as voting for harm reduction. There is
That's not good enough anymore, Dee. That's not good enough. You can't vote for harm reduction, apparently. It's not good enough. But okay, you're mad that there's a whole entire ICE like force out there. We could have avoided this, but you were too busy being mad about something that was happening not in this country, in another country that is now worse, because Jared Kushner is going to go build up and make tons of millions and billions of dollars off of this land that Israel with their bombs has destroyed, which Hamas caused. And there is cause and effect. And the cause and effect in America is that people sat their asses at home. And guess what? The effect is that now we have this man in the White House who has a freaking regime and a Gestapo like slave patrol going to go to people's house without even having warrants and trying to drag people out of their house. That man that they dragged out with no goddamn clothes on, and people are, and
Oh
you're
my God, that was a
terrific.
grandfather in front of it. I mean, like, even if he was the person that you were looking for, which he wasn't, I mean, where is the humanity? Like, it was 12 degrees. I mean, you
Exactly.
could have allowed that man to, but it's humiliation
Right.
is like
Oh,
part of their goal. Like, they want to bring harm. And so now people, you demanded all of these things about people, which rightly so, you should care about. I understand it. But because you demanded these um definitive things and perfection around certain things for these people in Gaza, and you didn't get it. And now it has gotten worse and they're selling it off for parts. And now you also have this Gestapo ruling the land here in our own country, and harm being brought to your own neighborhood. Like, sometimes you have to be able to see past, like, your desired goal,
right.
like, to see, paths to getting there. And they're not always direct, black and white. You have to, I mean, God knows we never would have gotten the civil rights act and things for ourselves if that's how we had operated.
Oh,
And
they would have been mad at MLK for working with JFK. They're like, oh my God, how could he do that? Why did they endorse? Like, this is the stuff that drives me crazy, because they act like they are so holier than thou, but those people would not be on the front lines. Are they in Minnesota? Are they out there doing what they need to do? No, people in Minnesota are out there in the freezing cold. I see white people, I see black people, I see all kinds of people who are out there. People with, this man said he bought an AK, whatever, 47, 15, whatever number they come in, and he is standing outside protecting his neighborhood. So this is where we are in America. Why didn't we think about this before we got ourselves into? Because it was not unknown. People knew what was going. It was foretold to us. That Trump told us everything that he was going to do.
I
There was
mean,
a whole manual. There's a whole Project 2025 telling you what.
and they had all the signs at the national convention, mass deportation. I mean, that was, like, the takeaway.
It was foretold, and like I said, for the midterms, I just don't really know. Just based on everything that I saw today, I'm like, do people even want to be in the majority? Do you even want to have majority? Do you want to get those gavels back, or do you just want to complain? Because I'm tired of the
Okay, it's deeper than that, Tiff. It's like, do you want to have a fucking democracy?
Right.
Okay. Because if we don't get it back, we are going deeper. We're already in an autocratic state. You can call it fascism, whatever you want. But if we don't get it back, trust me, it is only going to get worse.
Exactly.
Okay. And so people have to learn the skill of kind of compromise, finding, yes, you should be vetting candidates and stuff. And it's okay to ask candidates to have a nuanced conversation with you, okay, or about something. If you want something from them, ask them why they can't, because they could tell you. Now, are you willing to listen? But again, it's not like what can happen, it is what is already happening, which is only going to get worse, because JD Vance was in Minnesota basically saying, now this can be painless if y'all let it. Like, we can snatch your people off the street, and they don't have to get hurt, their windows don't have to get broken if they just let us do it. But they're not. But we're still going to do it. And Tennessee has already agreed to be the test bed and lead the nation in what it is like for a state to cooperate
Mm.
with ICE. I mean, they were meeting with Stephen Miller and some of the others during the Christmas, the holiday break, and here's some of the laws that they already have in place. Okay, that they want, bills that they want to pass. They want to make it a felony for people to interfere with ICE activity. And, that's so vague that that can be, like you could just be kind of standing there looking and filming, and that could be deemed interfering. So why a felony? Because it's a twofer. First of all, they can keep you from watching and witnessing the horror, but also with it being a felony, Tennessee is one of the most is leads the nation in disenfranchisement for people with felony charges. Like in most states, if you have a felony, there are steps that you can go through to regain your voting rights. It's damn near impossible to do that in Tennessee. Like it kind of takes years. And even after this one person had done that, they're gone through all their classes, paid their fines and everything, they were still trying to make it impossible for that person to get their voting rights back. They tried to tie their voting rights to gun rights. And because, their original crime involved a gun, they're like, you can't own a gun, so you can't ever vote again. So understand what is being done, and people have to think smart. And again, like I said, I just feel like all of these people who claim to be inside the big tent are really tearing the tent down, because this division, this perfection, these litmus tests are not helpful at all. And it's the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany, because you had the socialists, the democratic socialists there, and you had the communists, and they were fighting with each other about their ideology. In the meantime, the Nazis were just moving in and swooping and taking people off the street and eventually taking them as well. And it wasn't until toward the end that they realized, hey, we need to kind of work together so we can stop the Nazis and fight the Nazis. I hope we don't get there, but people need to understand, like, this really, it is not even about Democrats versus Republicans.
I
It's
agree.
about autocracy versus democracy. That's the
I
choice. I'm not saying vote blue no matter who. You can vet your Democratic candidates, but stop asking and expecting perfection from them in the things that you want and basing or withholding your vote on that. Black people have never had the privilege of withholding their vote because they didn't get all the things that they wanted. And I'm sorry. And I realize we've gone a little bit over,
Yeah,
and
good conversation, because I'm just tired. Like you said, it's it's not even so much the perfection of it. It's just the constant complaining about it, which then leads to apathy, which then leads to people saying, well, what is the point of even voting? But that is the goal of what MAGA and the authoritarians want to happen. They want people to not show up. They don't want people to
yeah.
keep them out of office. They want people to become complacent and think that nothing could change because what they're doing is going to be made harder in doing so. And people are falling into the trap, and it's so annoying to watch. But I am grateful that at least in polling, we're seeing that people are, like, at least in generic polling, that people are moving towards the Democrats. They're seeing this for what it is. No one wants to see what we're seeing on our streets. People are getting frustrated with this administration. They are going to have, I don't know if you saw this, they're going to have like a 2026 midterm like convention. I'm like, oh, you're going to have a whole, Klan rally apparently. And that should help you guys a whole lot. You can have all the signs and all the things that you show everybody exactly who you are. Not that the people that are MAGA are going to believe you. They're not going to believe what we say. They're going to believe everything that you say. But there are people outside of that sphere that maybe will start to pay attention and at least hear the things that these folks are saying. But if we're going to keep infighting about this about bills and 7 people out of 213 people doing something that you don't like, and then attacking the entire party, attacking Hakeem Jeffries, attacking everybody. We need him to be speaker. Maybe you don't want him to be speaker. I don't really give a damn if you want. His caucus wants him, is going to make him speaker. You don't get a say in that. The caucus does. So they will vote for him to be the speaker because they see the work that he's doing behind the scenes. You may not like it, but he is there to protect them. And all those people that work in Congress, they had an opportunity to say if they wanted to vote for this or they didn't. And the majority, 97% of them, said no, we don't want to fund this. And the Senate is going to have to go through this on their side. I don't trust them because I know there are people in the same position where they are in red states that they are going to, the purple states are going to have to make a tough decision on how we move forward. No one wants a shutdown. ICE is already funded. So where do we go from here? What do we not go in the midterms because of this? No, we have to move forward. Like we can't stop trying to win. But it's just annoying. Right. But that's me on my soapbox. I'm just so sick of it.
I am too, because like I said, in addition to them trying to make felonies out of people just, maybe protesting ICE, they're also trying to pass laws so that probably kids who are undocumented or who have family members who are undocumented might be kept out of the school system. Like they are trying to pass laws about them providing a certain amount of data, about their status and the people in the household for them to register for school and to have people unable to go to school, to unable to be educated. It's not good for our society either. What we need is to have people who believe in democracy and freedom back in charge. And as far as I can see, that is only Democrats. And then we need to really address a full-fledged immigration policy, overall. Like it has just had patches and band-aids thrown on it, which is kind of how we got to where we are. And that's gone on for years. But we do need a policy and a plan, but we need people who care about that. Because this country is made up of immigrants. Some of us didn't even come here willingly, but it's still made up of immigrants. And to try to pretend that they're going anywhere or
there's people pretending that they're not, that their families didn't come over as settler, like part of colonization, that they weren't part of
on the same damn boats that Trump is trying to pretend that, like the people that went to Greenland just got it because they got on a boat. Yeah, well,
your family came here from Europe. You are a freaking immigrant. Your family is immigrants, okay? My family and your family came here the same goddamn way. So the whole idea that they think that they're better than us because they have white skin is really freaking ridiculous. And the sad part is leftists are doing no better. They are doing no better. And that's the shit that pisses me off, because don't say you're a Democrat. Don't even try it with me. Don't even act like you even care if you are okay with this nonsense and you are trying to diminish what Democrats are trying to do. They are not perfect. I will never sit here and say Democrats are perfect.
No.
They do that. Piss me off. You know what? They piss me off and I move on to something else because that's life.
Exactly, because we still hold on to our democracy, and as long as we do, guess what? We get to vote them out. We still get to complain about them, but if we don't have a democracy, Trump can't stand anyone saying anything about him. So how long do you think you'll be able to speak out openly or have any say? You'll just be taking whatever they dish out, and it's not good for anyone except for that select few. It's not even good for their MAGA cult. So anyway, it has been wonderful chopping it up with you, and I am able to see some of the chat. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks, Kay, and a few others who are in the chat over there. I think that's probably coming from YouTube. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah, I see the ones from Twitter. I haven't seen any of them from YouTube, or I can't see the ones from Substack. So we got to figure that out.
Yes, we will get it figured out, but I appreciate you guys joining us. And of course, Tiff and I do this every 2 weeks, our Fired Up Friday, and we always have lots to talk about. But I want to take an opportunity to ask you guys to please subscribe to both of our Substack channels and our YouTube channels. We both have them, and follow us on the social media apps. And obviously, some folks are watching on Twitter. So I want to give you an opportunity for some closing thoughts and words for this weekend.
We are we are in 2026, and we really need to figure out how we're going to win back power. We cannot do anything in the minority. We have a very limited power in the minority, and I just really need people to start using logic and nuance and becoming civically literate to understand how our government works and functions and the roles that Congress plays in trying to at least deal with this in the best way possible. Are they perfect? No. Is Hakeem perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have my criticisms of him? Yes. But should he be the next speaker? Yes, because he's had to deal with all this nonsense for the last couple of years and months of dealing with these people, and he deserves to be the speaker. You can only do but so much in the minority. I'm sorry. There's only but so much you can. And comparing him to Nancy Pelosi, I can tell you right now, I watched Nancy Pelosi very carefully, and there was many times where she allowed for her people in these red and purple districts to vote so that they could save their asses and be able to get reelected. Because what is more important now is not what you guys want. It's about gaining the majority so we can put this damn regime in check. So I hope people understand that. But really, I just really need people to start using logic and math.
Yes, logic and math, because elections are all about math. It's all about the numbers. And so my closing message and call to action is to, ask people to really, really be civically engaged and to become more media literate. I don't mean watching TikTok and on the socials. I mean, like, read some articles, go to some kind of more traditional journalistic sources, PBS, NPR, they're still around. Who knows for how long? But, information is key to a healthy democracy. And if it weren't, they wouldn't be so working so hard to take ownership of all of it. Because when they take ownership of those media sources, they also are able to own the narrative and have people at a state of not even knowing what is truth. And we have to hang on to truth, okay? And the truth is that we are going to have to win this election in order to save our democracy. Okay? So this is not an election as usual. And I would just like for my influencers out there who have much bigger platforms than I do to think about that, to stop your dim bashing. Like, they're not perfect. I'm not saying they're not, but critique is perfectly fine. But you need to understand and stop, because I feel like some of these critiques are just thinly veiled bashings that helps the influencers platform, but it doesn't do anything for the party or for our democracy. Because right now, like, you create this type of apathy, and then people don't vote. And that's not helpful either, because, we need to exercise that right while we still have it. And I would like to see everybody engaged, and get engaged at your local level. Start looking at what is going on in your communities, your school board, your county commissions, city councils, and the state level too, because a lot of this stuff that is happening happens in those venues before it ever gets to a national level. And a lot of them are tested out in these local venues. And I'm going to ask y'all to keep Tennessee in prayer as we become the test bed for cooperating with ICE. And I will keep you guys updated. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky and on Spoutable. I hope you come visit us on Spoutable. I have some great conversations. I have a Monday chat. I've been having it for a long time, started on Twitter, but the Advocacy Arena Good Trouble chat starts at noon every Monday at noon Central every Monday. And then when I'm not here with Tiff on Friday, the next Friday evening, I will be on Spoutable in the evening with discussions. And you guys see me rolling these events out. And I hope you come and listen, because in discussions, kind of talk about what the root of the problem is in this country. And it's playing out every day. And that is white Christian nationalism. And I feel like a lot of people don't know and don't have the words to use and the understanding, and so I just work a little bit with trying to give some understanding and some history to people, a lot of white people, but then they can take that to their community and help to educate their community, because sometimes they don't know what they don't know. So like I said, we're all in it together, and let's say it with me: this is autocracy versus democracy. That's what it's about. So stay informed, guys. Stay engaged. And Tiff, I'll see you around and see you back here in 2 weeks. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.